So, Michael Sagaller with the National Institutes of Health. My background is originally medical research at NIH and then spent 20 years on the buy side. Headed 3 small companies, was in venture capital, and also was a lobbyist downtown in DC. Came back about 8 years ago to head our group. So our group is in the Tech Transfer Center. If you're aware of the small business grants that we provide, I'm actually not going to talk about that because that actually has a lot of good awareness. So I'm going to address my comments to the opportunities that companies have out there to partner with the NIH for technology development and commercialization. So what NIH does every year is we put actually more than $1 billion in kind or indirect support through company partnerships. We do a project together, and based on some criteria, we actually offset the cost of helping facilitate and expedite a company's technology development. So if your knowledge about how NIH works with companies begins and ends with SBIRs, then this will be educational for you. As the world's largest medical research center, it's easier to talk about what we're not interested in, what we are interested in, because we have over 850 active research programs. So really briefly, actually, before I get into what we focus on, what we provide is indirect or in-kind support. So we work with a lot of VCs, portfolio companies, because what we do is we spend money on a company's behalf as part of the collaboration. So we're not directly awarding them money like an SBIR, but we're providing significant resources and capital that offsets the cost of the work. So therefore, that frees up money that the company, for example, has an investment from a VC. So it decreases their burn rate and extends their runway. So one of the easiest ways to say what we don't focus on refers to business model. For better or for worse, we need a technology that is going to address a significant unmet medical need and therefore needs to go through a regulatory authority, be it EMA or FDA or any of the global regulatory agencies. If your business model is direct to consumer or over the counter, we don't focus on that as much. We're interested in the most common diseases like cancer and diabetes and COVID. We also, though, have a special interest in companies developing treatments that are for rare or neglected or pediatric or orphan indication. And if your company pipeline checks off any of those 4 boxes, you're well aware of how especially challenging it is to get investment interest. But as a public health agency, we're very interested in those as well. We do work about 60% with companies in the therapeutic space, about another 30% in diagnostics and med tech, and then we do work on digital health, e-solutions. We don't have a lot of biomedical engineers and coders, so when you get towards med tech and health tech, it's a more common scenario that companies are bringing their technologies to us to co-develop. So you might have an app for diabetes, you've got great coders, what you don't have is a key opinion leader in the diabetes space. So we would try to connect you with a key opinion leader who could then work with your company to move it forward. So our areas are very broad. And again, as long as the business model fits what our focus is on, then we're glad to hear from you. So we're not your typical investor, but I mean, we don't take equity and we actually don't do fee for service or contract work. So to work with us, as cliche as it might sound, it's based on the technology. So what we've seen as the year has gone on is we've seen a lot more companies coming to us in the health tech and AI space. And the challenge that we've seen is companies being able to really differentiate themselves from the growing amount of competition in the health tech and the AI space. Now, if a company wants to work with us and we can identify one of our tenured scientists who wants to work with them, then that's really the rate limiting step. But that said, it's becoming more and more of a challenge to determine whether or not there's really something there, because we don't, if a company approaches us, we don't enter into months of due diligence before we decide to devote public tax dollars to it. So what I would see as the year went on is the companies that we more and more worked with were those that more successfully presented us with how they were differentiated, and also how what they were proposing has an actionable item attached to their solution, because that's also key with a lot of health tech and AI. The more successful ones were able to more clearly define the problem they were solving and how their technology would be addressing that, rather than just throwing out machine learning or AI or drug discovery and assuming that everybody will just fall in awe.
How has Resi been helpful or beneficial for you in terms of meeting different startups and whatnot?
So also, it's been very good for us because we need deal flow. The situation is that the Small Business Investigational Research Program, or SBIRs, is a truly great program providing essential seed capital to early stage innovation. It's only part of the story, though. And so the awareness about SBIR is terrific. The awareness of how else the NIH could work with you to leverage whatever investment capital you've been able to raise, be it preclinical or through early clinical trial, is usually met with a blank expression. So although we work with companies all the way from startups to probably all the top 50 pharmas globally, the awareness of what NIH could bring to the table gets less as this company gets smaller. So what we find at Resi, why it's been good for us, is we find companies that have been de-risked. They've at least, most of them have gotten some seed capital or some early validation, even if it's through, say, SBIR grants, and that de-risks it for us. So although we are solely focused on is the technology of interest to NIH, I certainly would prefer, if I'm knocking on the door, so to speak, of a National Academy of Science member for a certain disease, if I'm going to ask them to take some time out to take a look at a company, if it's been de-risked because it's gotten some early stage validation through a Resi event, that certainly makes me more comfortable to ask them to take some of their time. So it's been great for us to create awareness about how we can work with VC and other seed capital to leverage those dollars to extend your burn rate. And it's also let companies know about some of the advantages that we have that can help them. I'll just mention one very briefly because I know we're limited in time. Through your tax dollars, you've paid for literally hundreds and hundreds of research tools that we've developed, animal models of diseases and things like that, that you can get from us, antibodies, reagents, cell lines, that you can get from us at our cost. We don't make money off of it. We're just covering our transportation expenses. And you can use those tools instead of spending, say, VC dollars to internally develop. You can just non-exclusively license it from us, and it can expedite your preclinical proof of concept work. And then the other thing, which is terrific, is that if you happen to discover any new intellectual property using a tool that you got from us, your company actually exclusively owns it. It's not jointly owned with us. You don't have to negotiate for equity. Your company owns it. So anyway, Resi's been really great for us to create awareness about how we can assist your attendees. So because we have, let's just say, a broad portfolio, I think and limited time, I think the companies can stand out that for us have an idea of how their medical solution is going to impact public health. Now, they also, by the way, have to have their commercialization plan in place, because NIH's mission is not just to improve global health, which is what most people know. Our goals also include facilitating economic development. So we're supposed to take the $45 billion that we get from you, the taxpayer, and actually give you a return on investment, help more products get sold, bring more products to market so you can hire more people. and lease more space and pay more taxes. So the companies coming to us, I would say that since, unlike my colleagues on the panel, we're not as focused on the IRR, but we're focused on the global health benefit, which is directly tied to an IRR. So for us, it would be what is your medical solution? And again, how is it distinct from other players out there?
And for quick Resi conference dates, we will have our Resi London in person on December 4th at 11 Cavendish Square. And then that will be followed by Resi JPM, which will be our biggest conference of 2025 at the San Francisco Marriott Marquis on January 14th in person. Both will be followed by virtual partnering as well. So we hope to see you all there. Thank you everybody so much. And I hope everyone has a good rest of your day.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.